Hey everyone, my name is Brandy Bird and I will be presenting on informational nonfiction. Just wanted to go over really quickly a few things to look for when evaluating for informational nonfiction. So first, the information needs to be accurate and correct. Second, has the author clearly distinguished between fact and hypothesis? Third, facts should be presented realistically. If the text includes talking animals, then you know that that's not nonfiction because animals can't talk in real life. Is the information up to date and current? If you're reading a book and it references Pluto as a planet, you know that that's out of date because we know that Pluto is not really a planet. Eliminate stereotypes. Be respectful of other cultures is one of the main things in that category. Illustrations should clarify the text. As you can see, that stick figure really does not enhance the text in any way, so those are really not necessary in informational nonfiction. Good informational books allow children to be actively involved, so they should be thinking and actively participating in their minds while they're reading. And lastly, organization should aid understanding. Some examples of that are a table of content, headings, bibliography, and indexes, and also just following a logical sequence of events. So, with that being said, the book I chose to do my presentation on is So What, Betsy Ross. I saw this book at the library, and it instantly drew me in just because of this lame, funny pun on the title, So What, Betsy Ross. So many of us are familiar with who Betsy Ross is, but this book was really good because it also gave a lot of background in her life and what she lived through. So one thing that I really loved about this book is here it talks about Betsy and her family being Quakers, and so I'll just read this short paragraph to you. Betsy's family were devout Quakers. Quakers tried to live simple, peaceful lives. They dressed in plain clothes. They worked hard in their homes, shops, and schools. Quakers had many strict rules. One was that Quakers could only marry Quakers. Another was that Quakers could not fight in wars. So, if I was reading this book and I didn't know what a Quaker was, chances are I probably wouldn't pick up a dictionary and look up the definition to find out what it is. So that's one thing that I really like. In many instances, if there's a word in here that's difficult to understand or maybe not super common in our English language, then they kind of define it and give a little more information on it. So that was one thing that I really, really liked. And another thing that I loved about this book is that it doesn't just, everything is about Betsy, but Betsy lives during some pretty monumental things in American history. So in here it talks about the Continental Congress, it talks about the fight between the colonies and England and our Declaration of Independence. So there's a lot of important things in here that revolve around Betsy Ross's life, but also have a lot to do with our history as Americans, and I think that's really important. So as I was reading this, one thing that I kept thinking to myself is it would be really hard to read informational nonfiction if you didn't really have any connection to it. I was in a government class where we studied a lot about the Constitution and about like the Magna Carta, the Declaration of Independence, and I really felt connected to those documents. And we went to Washington, D.C., and we were able to go and see those documents in person in Washington, D.C. And so that was a really cool experience because it meant something to me. And I think the same is true with these books. If it doesn't have meaning, then it's really not going to do anything for your students. So this book I would present when you're studying about American history and about the colonies and how the United States was first formed and created and when we declared our independence from England, and how Betsy Ross played a role in that, and so did her husbands. Her husbands fought in the wars and they also died in wars. So I think that's a really great way to tying in informational nonfiction is really important because it makes it a little bit more meaningful to the students. So that's about all I have. So happy Halloween, you guys, and have a great night. Thanks.